Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the July 2nd TCC meeting. As always, we will start with introductions, and I'll start to my left with Rich.
Riley Hennig, bicycle focus area.
Andrew Golden, Town of Davidson.
Aaron Tucker, Town of Cornelius.
Emily Hines, Village of Wesley Chapel.
Bjorn Hansen, Union County.
Todd Hunsinger, Indian Trail.
James Kelly, Town of Waxhaw.
Bryson Hester, City of Monroe.
Justin Russell, Town of Stallings.
Andrew Ventresca, Town of Troutman.
Jeff Johnson, CRTPO.
Justin Carroll, Charlotte DOT.
Candace Rory, Charlotte Pine.
Dan Lever, Charlotte General Services.
Ashley Letton.
Diane Thomas, Mecklenburg County Public Health.
Sarah Poplin, Charlotte DOT.
Mike Pilarski, CLT Airport.
Sean Epperson, NCDOT, Division 10.
Dana Stujanke, Town of Matthews.
Justin Williams, Town of Mint Hill.
Neil Burke, CRTPO.
Matt Newcastle, City of Swain.
Mary Wade, City of States. Katie Daughtry, Mecklenburg County Partner.
Bob Cook, CRTPO.
Andy Grimsby, Central Iowa Regional Council.
Brian Elford, CRTPO. Brian Horton Katz, no longer TCC rep, MTC, the whole PTA.
Mark Gittman's probably going to.
Mary McCulley, CRTPO.
Jennifer Stafford, CRTPO. Theo Johnson, CRTPO. Judy Geller, CRTPO.
Andrew Bolton, name.
All right, thank you. You all had a copy of the agenda sent to you. Do we have a motion to adopt today's agenda? Have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, agenda is adopted. We do have a couple items on the consent agenda. Consist of approval of the May 14th TCC minutes, tip amendments from 2026 to 35, a CATS tip amendment from 2026 to 2035, and a TCC bylaw amendment. This was discussed at a couple of staff meetings. Do we have any motion to approve the consent agenda? We have a second. Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, consent approved. With the consent agenda, the Charlotte General Services is no longer a member of the TCC. So we do want to thank Dan for his service, and we don't want to kick you out, but you know, we can't stay here. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. We do have a business item to discuss today. Travis will be leading us in the 2028 through 2037 tip development process.
Thank you. Again, I want to take also a moment just to thank Dan Lever for his participation in this organization. I believe he was here back when we were Mumpo, so storied past. But looking to the future, let's talk about the future, which is the 2028-2037 Transportation Improvement Program Development Process called Prioritization 8.0. We're going to talk about the action requested, go over an overview of what we've been sharing, talk about the regional impact and division needs projects, talk about local contribution, consolidation of our public comment periods, and then next steps. So what I'm asking for today is a recommendation to the CRTPO board that they open a public comment period from July 16th to August 14th for regional impact and division needs local input points allocations. This process started in July of 2025 with the project submission window opening. We then had public engagement for the project list, worked with UR partners to identify non-highway projects to submit. we received approval of our list in August of 2025. That was then submitted. Then through October and April, the projects were scored and reviewed until this year. And then in May 2028, or not 2028, May 28th, 2026, the spot office released the statewide mobility projects that were recommended for selection, and then the quantitative scores for all projects, including regional impact and division needs. When we received those scores, we shared the projects that were selected and then the scores for regional impact and division needs. We provided updates at the June 3rd, June 10th, June 17th, June 24th, and June 31st transportation staff meetings about where we were thinking or where we were going to apply local input points based upon our methodology. Also, all the TCC members were emailed on June 10th to review the draft list, and we set a deadline of June 17th, and we made updates to that list based upon the feedback we had received. We've also met with Division 10 and 12 on June 16th to talk about their local input points and how they plan on allocating. And we've received on June 30th, the Division 10's local input point or proposed local input point allocations. For regional impact, we proposed a non-cascading project list. This is due to the funding that was available, and then also provides the highest chance of regional impact projects competing for funding in their proper tier. The list is available at this QR code and was also included in your agenda packet. In this list, we are proposing 2,450 points for highway projects and 50 for non-highway projects. Typically, we've applied more points to non-highway projects. However, we only had the one project in non-highway that we had submitted, and we are only able to put 50 points on it because it's a bus service from Charlotte to Gastonia. And so because half of the project would be in our planning area and half would be in Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln, and PO, we can only apply the maximum of the percentage that is in our NPO, which is 50. So this also then maximizes the number of points that are available for the highway projects in this tier. There's also on this list a Winston-Salem to Charlotte passenger rail service that we don't fully understand the impacts on the red line or the service decision or what else would go into that process. So we're recommending not adding local input points to that project until both NPOs and CATs can have a chance to work with the rail and figure out what that passenger service would mean for our existing planned services. For the division needs, we followed the same non-cascading list recommendation. We applied 2,100 points for highway and 400 for non-highway. This, again, for the non-highways, we applied 100 points to each mode under non-highway that was eligible to receive local input points. And then we chose the second highest score for a non-highway project without taking into account mode. So this ends up being a transit project, two bike ped projects, and an aviation project. And again, this is available in the agenda packet list and then also available at this QR code. Division 10 has shared their draft point allocations with us. It's important to note that Division 10 receives less local input points than we do for our region. So there will always be some projects that do not get joint point submittals. We have updated your local input point spreadsheet to incorporate all of the places that Division 10 is proposing to add local input points to. There are, however, two deviations to where Division 10 is adding local input points and we are not adding local input points. The first is a roadway project for the Monroe Executive Airport. They've added local input points to that project. However, with our methodology, we add local input points to the highest aviation project, which is actually a project in Statesville. In addition to that, they are making a recommendation for Mount Holly, Huntersville Road and Bellhaven Boulevard intersection. That project did not receive local input points because it was not originally submitted by us. It was submitted by the division, and it was a project that was not in the MTP as a fiscally constrained project list. But that is an opportunity where both our projects are an opportunity where we could adjust our local input points based upon public feedback or future conversations. Again, we're entering a public comment period for these lists. The local input points could move for mutual alignment because each Each of these two projects are in the division needs tier, which means half the score comes from local input points. So in the coming weeks, based upon public feedback and future discussions, we can decide if we want to adjust our list to accommodate this mismatch of local input point allocations. For the public comment period, we are recommending that we stay combined for the two public comment periods. The calendar was adjusted for the division needs comment period to be 2 months. And so the ability to open a public comment period, have a meaningful public comment period, and return to the board for a decision would not be able to then do that and then also take into account what projects were selected in regional impact, because that would not give us enough time to do so. So if we just assign both regional impact and division needs separately, we'll provide each project list the best chance to compete in their tier. And we can also reduce confusion we think sometimes we receive from the public by having two public comment periods about regional or about local input points. And sometimes there are projects that ended up on both lists. And so if we just do them both at the same time this cycle, we feel like that will help with clarity and create a more expedited process. So we'll do a 30-day public comment period from July 16th to August 14th. Again, we know that the public comment period would go beyond the next TCC meeting. So the goal is at that TCC meeting, we'll share every comment we have received to that moment. And then prior to the board meeting, we will provide that final list of public feedback before the board would act. And the final list, as we'll share with the August 19th transportation staff meeting prior to the board meeting. For public engagement, we're going to do a media release. We're going to have interactive maps on the website. We'll be announcing it on our banner. We'll do social media promotions and flyers. We're coordinating with jurisdictions to promote it on their methods for public awareness. We're also going to National Night Out at various locations, and we'll bring information to promote and flyers to promote this public comment period. And so we're hopeful we'll get a lot of good feedback early on in this process. But as you'll review the list of projects, by keeping the project list to regional impact or division needs, we're able to add proposed local input points to a lot of the projects on the list. So we're not anticipating major feedback on where the points are going unless it's a project someone would not like. An opportunity each community has to improve their project score is to submit a local contribution to their projects. So when you originally submitted your project, you had an opportunity to add dollars to it to reduce the cost in NCDOT, and this improves the competitiveness of the project. At this point in the submittal process, when we were applying local input points, you have another opportunity to apply a local match to the project, and it directly affects the benefit cost score for a project. This is not a way to buy a project into being funded through the STIP, but it is a way to affect the final project score by a few points based upon what your existing benefit cost score is, and then how much money could you put in to get that to the maximum points, which would be 100 points in that category. If you'd like to look at a project in the list, see what your score is, talk about how much funding would it take to boost your project score, I'll be available to have those conversations. We can set up a Teams meeting. I can meet you in your jurisdiction to talk about that. But again, this will typically affect a few points with your project. It's not a way to get a point from the bottom of the list to the top of the list. But if you're really close to the top or tied with another project, it would be an opportunity to boost it above the other project where there isn't a local contribution. NCDOT wants to reward communities that show local support through financial dollar matching to show it reduces the need on the total budget by maximizing the dollars for NCDOT. So that's why it's benefiting that category. We need a committal letter by August 12th, because when I submit the local input points at the end of August, I also have to commit to the new local match if one is available. And also by committing to a local match, if your project is selected with a commitment of a local match, and when it comes time to start the project, if you do not provide the local match, it means that your project will probably have to be reprioritized and re-ranked in the next prioritization cycle. So keep in mind that you are committing, and if you do not spend the money you say you're going to on the project, it might lose its status as being in the STIP or TIP or in the first, whatever phase it is in at that point. So again, letters due by August 12th. If you'd like to see how much it might affect your final score, I'm more than willing to, I will meet with you and we can talk about what your options are. We're going to bring the draft list to the board this month to bring the local input point allocations. We're going to ask them to open the public comment period. And then our ask of you is to help us promote this public comment period, retweet, reshare, whatever we are sharing, send stuff out to your email list to get feedback. Then we'll return in August to confirm our local input point allocations and funding commitments of August 12th. And then we will submit our local input points and funding commitments to the spot office by the end of August. And then that will complete the local input points process for the STIP. Then after all the projects, after every project has received their local input points and we finish then the division needs window, which we will have already done by the combining our window. We still anticipate the draft STIP and TIP to be released in early 2027. So with that, again, the action request is today is to recommend that the board open a public comment period, and then I can answer any questions anyone might have about the prioritization process.
Do you have any questions for Travis? Go ahead.
They have not contacted us about coordination.
Funding is actually available for this round of for non-committed projects. That is there any?
It is on the website. I do not have my cell phone. Yep. As of right now, I believe statewide is, I'm going to wing it and we're going to confirm if I'm right to see how good my memory is. I believe it's 1.6 billion is available for statewide. I think it's about no, thank you. All right. I have the real numbers, and then here's my caveat. As of May 28th, 2026, these are the estimates that can and potentially will go down by the time the STIP is released. For statewide mobility, we have $1.665 billion, or million, 1.665 because I said four numbers. So 1.6 billion. For Region E, which is Mecklenburg and Union, there's $246 million. For Iredell, which is Region F, which is divisions 11 and 12, it's 432 million. For Division 10, which is Mecklenburg and Union, it's 97 million. And for Division 12, which is Iredell, it's 47 million. Currently, as of that date, with the understanding it will probably go down.
Any other questions? Okay, we do have an action requested, which is to request the board open up the public comment period. Do we have a motion to approve the action? Do you have a second? All in favor? Any opposed?
It was Erica and Heather first and second. All
right. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we do have one informational item today. It's on the discretionary grant program. We'll open up Jennifer to lead us in that.
I still need a step. I haven't grown since last year. So we're getting ramped up a little bit early this year for the annual call, which opens in mid-August. But before that, I just wanted to give you a snapshot on what we're currently doing with our active discretionary grant projects. So we have 121 active projects, 60 in highway, 47 bike ped, 3 in transit, 5 air quality, and 6 planning studies. They are broken down, sorry, planning 6, 25 capital projects in design or have been scheduled far enough out that they haven't been authorized for engineering yet. 29 in engineering, 35 in right-of-way utilities, and 25 in construction. Sorry, I'm having allergies. At transportation staff meeting, we're doing project status updates and everybody's been great at participating in that. Hopefully you've sat in on some of those, so you can watch these projects go through the cycle. It's been interesting. So, speaking about interesting, get into this next year, and the STIP unit presented this at transportation staff, but if you didn't attend, here's the funding availability for the call this year. Again, most of our funding is in fiscal year 3031. So most of our funding, or basically all our funding, is in STB GDA or BGDA funds. This is our most flexible funding type, so this is good news. We have a little bit left in the TAP funding, so we'll just program that. And again, when you apply for projects, we will help determine what type of funding, and we're pretty limited this year, but we do move funds around. The congestion mitigation and air quality CMAQ funds hasn't been renewed as of yet, but it's looking very favorable. I think let's wait and hear how this goes. If there's increased funding, we just want to make sure that that funding is going to be available before we go through programming. Any question on this slide? Yes, more.
$4,000 for the DA program?
It's sorry, that's a type, 400,000. Yep, sorry. Actually, I think it's rounded up. It's like 360, I think. Good catch. So a few years ago, we put caps on applications, and it's not per member or jurisdiction, it's per project. And so for highway and non-highway, you're capped at 25% of the available amount. But let's go through the chart. So planning projects, we target 1%, which happens to be, say, 530,000 for this year, or 500,000. So if we have a year that's 30 million, then we can still do 500. My hunch for this year is we'll have more planning projects than in the past. So start to digest, if we go over that 1%. Regardless, we'll keep the caps for processing and scoring the same for highway and non-highway projects. So 80% of the 41.5 million available is about 10.3 is your maximum amount for highway projects. And then for non-highway, the 20% of 10 is about 2.5, or actually 2.6 million. Typically, when we award the projects, we do a 80-20 split, and that includes the shortfalls. And that, again, is just target. I would say in the last few years, we're more at 70-30%, something like that. But we'll see how it goes this year. We'll put in the whole applications and scores into the spreadsheet, and you'll see where that funding line is. So the timeline, the call opens as usual the mid part of August, which this year is the 17th. So you can apply. Since we don't have the spring call anymore, this is your opportunity to do new projects as well as shortfall projects in planning, of course. And then your pre-submittal meetings will be due October 16th. And with October 30th being the deadline. Then we'll do the TCC workshops like we did last year, since the POC sunsetted the year before last. I think the workshops worked out really well. It just is a little bit larger POC meeting. We have it in this room. We have it right after TCC. So the first workshop will be sort of just reviewing high level of the discretionary grants program. So when you start to see the scores come in, you can just hopefully more easily apply that logic to how the scores were done. And then the second workshops will be in December, and it will actually start looking at recommending the projects to the board. And then after that process is done, we'll return back to the TCC and the board for information and then for action in February. From there, it ends up at the STIP unit and they amend it into their STIP. The information about the call will be presented Wednesday, August 19th during a transportation staff meeting. The information will also be on our website, and you can just go to crtpo.org and then do the project plan discretionary grants funding, and you'll see the drop down there. We'll post all the slides and the webinar on our website. So again, just to recap on the workshops, and I'm happy to send out calendar invites. I think you all liked that last year, and I can do that again this year. You can do it optional, just have it on there so you know, especially with these shorter TCC meetings, it hopefully will be easy just to hang out. So November 5th would be the first one, just talking about the policy. December 12th will be the larger of the meeting where we actually develop a draft recommended list. Sometimes in December, the TCC's meetings canceled. I think that was the case last year. So we'll do that during the regular 10 to noon slot, have some breakfast or something just to make it a little more friendly, casual, inviting. And then typically we've done a remote meeting just to follow up the draft recommended list, let everybody sort of sleep on it, digest, see if there's any questions back when you report this to your board. And then we kind of confirm or bring up more issues or any issues at the second meeting. Occasionally, we've had this once or twice with the POC where we needed to bring that into January. So I might put that on your calendars as a hold, but it will be very tentative. It's more rare to have that spill over into January. So with that, I will take any questions.
I just want to say that if we start having longer TCC meetings, we can all blame Jennifer for making that comment. But other than that, do we have any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
That concludes our agenda items. Your NCDOT Division 10 and 12 reports were included in your packet as always. I do think Sean has an announcement for all of us.
Yeah, so the NCDOT has opened its public comment period on the next round of STI. It goes from July 1st through July 31st or 30th, end of July. And then Division 10 is having its open public meeting on July 23rd from 5 to 7 at our Metrolina Regional Transportation Management Center.
Okay, thank you. I believe Neil has a couple announcements to make.
But 1 second. I was just going to announce Division 12's is on July 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the NCT DOT Division 12 office in Shelby.
Good morning, everybody. Just two quick announcements. The board approved the revisions to the memorandum of understanding at the July 17th meeting. The scope is limited again to just replacing the Metropolitan Transit Commission with the MPTA. That was the scope of the MOU revision. So I've sent the revised MOU and the signature page to your clerks, and I've copied you and your board members. And I appreciate everybody that has been diligent in getting back to me and getting this scheduled on an agenda in July or August. But we do want to try to get all these signatures back from our voting jurisdictions by August 18th. So if you haven't done that yet, please coordinate with your clerks to get this on an agenda. It is not necessary to have it on an agenda, but our attorney has advised that it's strongly recommended. And then the second update is we adopted the 2055 MTP in March. And what we're looking to do in the next month is to have a lessons learned meeting with the TCC members to get your experiences with the project submittal process, public engagement, the scenario planning process, what you found useful, what you found could be improved. And that will help us in the scoping process as we get closer to the 2060 MTP. We don't anticipate really kicking that off for another year, but the scoping process and the contracting process can take some time. So we would appreciate your input at the very beginning of this process to help us improve our product next time. And that's all I have. Yes.
The Camp 177 project impact our area. I was just wondering how canceling of the 77 project impacts the MTP or even the discretionary funding.
Great question. It doesn't, at least, it doesn't, in my mind, have a direct impact on the discretionary funds that we receive. Those are federal direct attributable funds. But NCDOT is anticipated to bring the removal of I-5718, the 77 South Express Lanes project, to the Board of Transportation for information at their July 8th meeting and then for action at the August meeting. So that will trigger a process where we have to redo our air quality conformity determination. And we will have to amend our MTP either to move this project to a different horizon year or remove it altogether. And we will also have to remove it from our TIP. And then we will also, once we have all of that done, we'll have to do a 30-day public comment period. So that process could take up to between 6 to 12 months. So we have to kind of wait for NCDOT to take the first action, but great question. And we'll certainly keep the TCC and the board informed as we move through that. And Brad did a good job at the June meeting of kind of bringing the board members along of what steps we'll need to take. And it's not over and done with based on the action that the board members took in May. We'll be dealing with this for at least another 6 months.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Neil. I think we've got one final announcement with Travis.
Thank you, everyone. This reminder, just again, directly after the TCC meeting, we'll be having the linking and land use transportation education session here in this room. So as the meeting ends, just remember we're going to be setting up for that event. So thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our meeting.
Can I add one more? Sorry, want to add one more thing. I know Dan's departure from the table happened fairly abruptly. Want to give a little why behind that. So with the passing of the budget, manager's budget this year, we were consolidating, moving the engineering and project management arm from general services into CDOT. And so that is to help us deliver projects more efficiently and thinking about the define, design, deliver process. We want to bring that into one unit to help be more efficient. And so as part of that, the seat from general services is moving into CDOT. And so that's why that seat is being removed from TCC. So I want to give you a little bit of a why behind that. And Dan did nothing wrong. But anyway, we'll be moving forward. Dan will be part of Charlotte DOT, and he will still be part of this group in whatever form or fashion and helping make decisions. But just want to give a little context. Thank you.
I have a quick question about why Brian is sitting against the wall. Like, what, so is Kat's not a member anymore? I'm confused, or is there a new member?
Brian was a member as a representative of the MTC. The MTC no longer exists.
Okay.
The MPTA was just added to the bylaws. We do not have a letter nominating Brian as the representative for the MPTA. So once I receive that letter, he will join us at the table.
So we need a letter from the MPTA.
The Chief Financial Officer,
Chief Fin-
as stated in the bylaws, yeah. So he has a letter and is working through that process. As soon as I receive that letter, he will be seated again.
Anybody else?